There are a few incredible records in esports. Take the 2015 Fnatic League of Legends roster that went undefeated in their summer regular season. Or Smash 4 player Zero, who won 56 tournaments during that game's first year. Or Ninjas and Pyjamas, who dominated the earliest days of CSGO with an 87 map LAN win streak. But despite all the victories, all the undefeated records, there are very few teams who've managed to pull off the exact opposite. Only one team was bad enough, unlucky enough, cosmically unloved enough to pull off the longest winless streak in esports history. One team that totally overhauled their roster and kicked their best player in the middle of the season. Ladies and gentlemen, pros and scrubs of all ages, let's talk about the longest losing streak in esports history. Let's talk about the Shanghai Dragons. The Shanghai Dragons just completed the first season of the Overwatch League with an unprecedented 0-40 record. Yeah, you heard that right, 0-40. We checked, and while plenty of teams have come close to that record, no one's ever actually achieved it, at least not in a major esports league. There are plenty of League of Legends teams that have pulled off one-win seasons, and a good number that went winless, particularly in the LPL and the LMS. But a League of Legends split is significantly shorter than an Overwatch season. Notably, there are a few CSGO teams that have gone an entire ESL Pro League season without winning, but they were all disqualified before the season ended, so they don't really count. But the Shanghai Dragons, now that is a losing streak. You have to get really deep into some obscure traditional sports to find any team that's ever done worse. Across the board, no NFL, NBA, MLB, or NHL team has done worse, with the longest losing streak there coming from the Philadelphia 76ers, who in 2015 lost 28 games straight across 2 seasons.
In the opening weeks of OWL, I've had my suspicions growing that for the Shanghai Dragons, the league might actually be a punishment from the ancient Greek underworld. The Shanghai Dragons seem condemned to an eternal torture where victory is perpetually just a little bit out of reach.
And here's the weird thing. By the end of the season, the Shanghai Dragons roster didn't look that bad on paper. They had a strong lineup of Korean players who were mostly overlooked during the initial signing blitz ahead of the first season. Gegri, Otto, and Fearless are all solid players who helped the team improve significantly when they were signed partway through the first season. But the team's beginnings were a lot worse. The Shanghai Dragons were the first team to get a name and a brand when the Overwatch League was rolling those out. A few months later, they revealed their roster, an all-Chinese team made up of players from various strong Overwatch rosters in China. But the wheels came off the wagon pretty fast. The team went 0-2 in the preseason, losing 4-0 to Seoul Dynasty and 3-2 to the Boston Uprising.
And that may be it. Oh, they get back there just in time. It was close. So Rez comes in for Roshan. So Seoul having to back off a little bit. Get back on the payload. That is going to be it this time. Overtime ticking off, and Seoul Dynasty will take this series 4-0 in maps.
And they know what they're doing. So he sees Tia, he misses the flashbang, but
Oh,
he won't
sick.
miss that bullet, and Kalios gets the kill
That's
at
it.
the end, and now it's just going to be the end. The Graviton Surge is going to bounce everybody around in the corridor.
Keep off the point. They can, and Boston Uprising will take the win over Shanghai Dragons.
Then, in week 1, they lost to the LA Gladiators and the San Francisco Shock. And then, they lost to the Houston Outlaws and the Florida Mayhem. 4-0 both times. It was around this point people realized that Shanghai had a problem. And team manager Yang Van released a statement agreeing with that. It was also in that statement that he revealed that the team had a grueling training regimen, practicing from 10:30 a.m. each day until midnight. But Van also said that the team was hungry for their first victory.
This is where it gets out of control. 5 King. He will get the res on Undead, trying to keep him in the fight. Tvik gets caught by MG. Still, it is going to be Florida Mayhem. In the end, picking up the 3rd point and a 4-0 victory over Shanghai. This is all on Tia, saving a blink to touch the point, keep overtime alive. But that's pretty much it with the whole Hound used to zone them out. The Los Angeles Valiant win the match 4-0.
And it's worked out so well this far. Now it's going to be the Transcendence. You can't break through that one. He's still getting buffeted around, but it's all bluff and blunder from the Shanghai Dragons because they lack the bark and the bite. And that's it.
After getting summarily dunked on for the rest of Stage 1, the Dragons returned for Stage 2 with an overhauled roster made up of those aforementioned Korean players, all of whom were considered some of the best in their positions out of players not yet in the Overwatch League.
Frame of Undead is coming back in with a tactical visor, but he's going to get pushed out of position. The Transcendence from free field, he gets onto the payload, but now he's being used knocked around the place. No one for the Dragons can get back. Getting close now, there's no risk really, and going aggressive here for the San Francisco Shock, and there's no margin of error left for the Shanghai Dragons. That's MG down, self-destruct to force away. It was an attempt. Something was being done in the background. The Shock make it to 4-0.
Sure, 4 with another big EMP. He's going to use it to help finish off Refill, and everybody pretty much down. Widow can't push the payload by herself, and that will be the LA Gladiators getting a 4-0 here against the Shanghai Dragons.
So that didn't work. After 3 more weeks of straight losses, head coach U4 stepped down. He was replaced by Kong as interim coach and later by Rui as the new head coach. It mostly did nothing for the team. They went 0-16 in maps after U4 left. Then, between stages 2 and 3, the Dragons dropped Undead, their superstar DPS player. Well, as much of a star as any 0-20 team can really have on their roster. Everything related to Undead's departure is hearsay, but there were plenty of allegations online that he cheated on multiple partners. Either way, even without their star player, it's not like things could get much worse for Shanghai. In fact, things were starting to look a little bit better. They picked up their best map record in Stage 3, going 9-0-32, picking up DPS player Daemin to replace Undead. Things were finally looking up for the Shanghai Dragons. But whatever light the Shanghai Dragons saw at the end of their tunnel was quickly covered up by a cave-in.
The week kicked off with the debut of a brand new Shanghai roster, but the acquisitions of Geggery and company couldn't reverse their fortunes as they still search for their elusive first win.
I'm the Shanghai Dragons. My 0-28 record means I also have 28 straight losses. The record for most consecutive losses by a professional sports team is 28, set by the Philadelphia 76ers in 2014. One more loss, I own that awful record. Should I win my next match against the NYXL, or should I set the record?
You should definitely win. No one wants to be remembered for losing the most. New York will be focused on the playoffs. You can do this!
No, lose! Sets the record. You'll be remembered forever.
Shanghai actually ended the 4th and final stage of the Overwatch League with the worst record they'd had since Stage 2. That's right, they actually managed to do worse.
So, this is my 3rd take on the Shanghai Dragons, and everything I have said previously
Please just be nice this time.
Deemed unacceptable.
Trying to get to the cafeteria, dog.
So,
we're running late.
It was not a good season.
They were 0-40.
They played badly, they didn't win.
0-40, not ideal.
There's not a lot of good things to say.
With everything said and done, the Shanghai Dragons won 21 maps, tied 2, and lost 141. The next worst team in the league, the Florida Mayhem, won double the amount of maps, and while they only won 7 matches, at least they made it competitive, sometimes. And again, it's not like the Shanghai Dragons were abject garbage. A lot of their players were strong individual players, but they struggled when it came to playing as a team.
Lauded Linkser for his great Widow v Widow play, but so far Diaz gotten the best of him a couple of times. There he goes, he balls, and that's unresable.
Yeah, that's awkward. Soon is looking right now, and he's getting on the point. Progress is being made yet again. Nobody is on top of this. Soon!
The Soon special back cap.
Wait, what is
He's not even gonna fire a shot.
Unbelievable.
How do they not know? Hush, hush, you guys are gonna let them know.
Oh, there it is, Rosen, finally!
So a chance here for Shanghai to come in and hold before the map can be completed.
Well, the pulse bomb onto MG, he's gonna have to, whoa, what? Okay.
Yeah, nobody's gonna get there. And no one from Shanghai makes it onto the payload, so valiant finish with 42 seconds left.
Part of that might stem from the fact that Kong has told the Korean players on the team not to communicate in Korean during the game. Instead, he's having the players speak in English or Chinese, meaning a large chunk of the roster, arguably the most mechanically solid part, was having trouble communicating with the rest of the team. But no matter the reason, the Shanghai Dragons did it. They went a whole season without a single win and 40 losses. They are officially the losingest team in major esports history. But hey, there's no relegation, so at least we get to see them try it all over again next year.
Thanks for watching. If you want more great content just like this, be sure to hit the subscribe button.